G'day, Steve and Gary from OffTheGridAndOz.com. Quick video on just tiny houses in general actually this morning on this dreary Saturday morning. Don't you hate those weekends when you wake up and the sky's grey and it's dull outside and you just know that the weather's just not going to improve? One of those Saturday mornings, so I'm sitting here in the office. Gary's outside having her morning cup of coffee. I thought I'd make a quick video on tiny houses and just generally the thinking that we constantly have been discussing for many months now. And this is to do with a lot of the push that's going on in this somewhat fledgling industry. This industry is relatively new under the title of tiny houses. Now, I'm not suggesting that all tiny house operators or builders are not qualified builders. I have no idea really. There seems to be a lot of DIY getting into tiny houses and seems to be promoted quite strongly. Now, from what I can tell, there's a big push on to have tiny houses recognised, or what you might call, and this is the funny thing, tiny houses aren't actually regulated at the moment right now. If you keep that in mind, you have a building industry. This is part of a building industry that is virtually not regulated because of the wheeled aspect of it primarily. A lot of the push seems to be to have these accepted as what the new title is, which is a tiny house. It is just a small build really. I mean, as a builder, and last couple of days I've been called out on, our new website, Off the Grid and Oz Tiny Homes and Trailers. Yeah, we've been called out as being new, and it does make me chuckle a bit. These people that have been building these things for 2 or 3 years or whatever, daring, or having never built anything, daring call us out as being new is just nothing short of amusing. You know, if you've been a builder for 30 years, since you were 20 years of age, I would just suggest that these people read a little bit more on the website about our history perhaps. But anyway, getting back to this video, this push seems to be out there to get these things. What they're actually asking for is acceptance and almost a form of deregulation. Now, what's going to happen, I believe, if you've been in the building industry a long time like myself, what you find is you are surrounded by regulations, very strict regulations, from building codes, health department codes, electrical compliance, plumbing compliance, all these things that I'm absolutely 100% familiar with, and all builders are. And the people that are pushing these tiny homes, I can't emphasise this enough. The push is to have these things accepted as what they have been since their inception in Australia, which is DIY small house projects, tiny house projects. And what's going to happen, I believe, if these people, the punters like Tiny House Australia and a few other major promoters, they're not builders by any stretch of the imagination, and we have a small set of issues with the way those people promote this, but what people like that and others that are kicking around that are pushing for somewhat acceptance are going to cause, and this is not me telling you this is something new. This has happened through the building industry forever. When something like this comes up and people ask or push or try to get something changed, what happens is it brings this stuff to the attention of the authorities, and what happens then is they will, I know what's going to happen to this industry, I'll put it this way, my opinion. This whole thing is going to be bagged and tagged, as a lot of the players in the tiny house community like to call it, as a tiny house. A lot of people take exception to the fact that these are just building projects. I've had it said to myself a few times by unqualified people who go, "Oh, you have never built a tiny house." Well, guess what? No, I've built huge houses, and I've built single room extensions. I've built kitchens, bathrooms, laundries, all different types of construction. So yeah, no, I've never built, in quotation marks, a tiny home for myself. All right, done a couple for other people, but that's another story. As far as this goes though, this push for acceptance is going to cause these things and to be brought into the limelight with authorities, not on the level I believe that these people that are pushing this are going to expect. They may get allowance for tiny homes on wheels to be parked places, but you know what's going to be the trade-off? These are building projects, guys, and they are building projects with habitable space. And if the push is continues to call these things homes, what do you think is going to happen to the building codes, the plumbing codes, the council regulations to do with health, waste disposal, the whole lot? Where do you think this is going to go if these people continue to push this tiny homes in quotation marks title as something different? Because all they're going to do is identify this very clearly as to what it is, and that's a fledgling industry that is going to grow, and the authorities are going to want a growing industry to be regulated. They may give permission to park these things around the place, but we're all going to pay the price. It's going to take one accident on one site where someone has a wall fall on them. It's just something dreary. You know, the old mobile phone thing, you know, you have a few people crash their car with a mobile phone. Bingo, we're all in line now for massive fines if we dare even touch our phone in a car. That's what happens when a couple of people do the wrong thing, and then all of a sudden regulation takes over. And now we all suffer the mobile phone fine thing if we touch our phones just because of a few stupid people. Well, I believe this is going to happen to this tiny homes thing. When it was a fledgling industry based solely on DIY, it was fine. It was not in anyone's face. Now we've got these idiots running around shoving it out there, trying to promote something in a different way, when in actual fact it is just an owner-build small building. They're going to bring this thing into the attention of the authorities, and this is not going to end up well. We're all going to have to wind up, or I'm already licensed, but all these poor DIYs are going to have to wind up the same as an owner-builder. You're going to have to wind up having to go do a course. They may make it regulated to the point where these things have to be inspected. Don't think that's not going to happen. One of these 4.5 ton super huge heavy timber ones has only got to have one accident on the road. What do you think is going to happen to the legalities behind towing a timber building down the highway? Yes, and I've heard the stupid, narrow-minded, childish analogy. They're just a load on a trailer. They are, at the moment, just a load on a trailer. What's going to happen with these buggers pushing this into the authorities' faces if one of these things has an accident on the road? You know what's going to happen? Look at your mobile phone in the car next time you're driving along. You know what's going to happen? This supposedly big push to make this accepted and give us all the benefits and rights of homeowners and whatever the bloody hell their ridiculous push is all about, is going to just drag this straight down the same road as the mobile phone issue. One accident on the highway, one accident on a building site, one building that has a bit of an issue, especially because a lot of these are being sold now, like our new little project. But I mean, for me, this is no new project. This is a building project. It seriously isn't. Our trailers have been professionally built, designed by us and paid for by us. We're not reselling anyone else's trailer. They are our own trailers. So I've left that in the hands of experts, but this to us is just a building exercise. And at the moment it's a building exercise that isn't regulated. And thanks to the bigger marketeers out there who think they're better than bloody, bigger than bloody Ben-Hur, they're going to push this into the places that we may all regret. And that will mean regulation, that will mean compliance. And if you think that's a good trade-off, well, every DIYer and every person who's had aspirations to save money and knock one up out of second-hand materials may all be in for a shock somewhere down the road if this push keeps going in this direction. It should have been left in the backyard, this business. Should have been left undercover or somewhat covert. It is ridiculous to have this pushed out there as a tiny house, because a house that is habitable becomes a habitable space. And look up in the codes, any space that's habitable has to comply. They will soon. How long do you reckon it's going to take them to remove the restrictions just because there's wheels under it? All right? How long do you reckon it's going to take them to undo that and cause these things to be looked at like a full build? All right? Something to think about. Even one comment a couple of days ago about insurance. an unqualified person has never built anything from what I can tell, who pushes this tiny home stuff out there, made the statement about an insurance broker not understanding this because these are tiny homes. What sort of a moron would make that statement? This is a building. It's now a habitable space called a house. And yet these people are trying to isolate it and even call out insurance companies for not knowing what this is about. This is about building a habitable space. We're all going to drag this damn industry into places, I believe, that we may regret to some degree. Anyway, cheers from Stephen Carey from offthegridnoz.com. I'm still not tagging it with the tiny homes and trailers. Although, look, we've been doing editing and trying to get plans up. Spent hours with CAD programs drawing all this stuff up. We actually got a visitor today. One of our subscribers is popping in for a cup of coffee and a few bickies later. So yeah, Kipper, if you're out there, yeah, we're waiting for your visit this afternoon, mate. That'll be cool. Anyway, this is a short video just on tiny houses in general, and this push to make these things seem what they aren't. And for all you punters out there that may watch this that have actually picked on me for being, I've been called new. New. Well, I'm not really new at building, guys. I've built bigger sheds than what these things are, like every builder out there. So I'd really like it if people would get their head around who they're talking to before they pass unqualified comment at someone like myself or any other tiny house builder that's been doing a bit of DIY or been a builder like myself all their life. You know, unless you've been swinging the hammer and screwing the screws in and putting the glue down and cutting the timber and laying the bricks, hey, shut the F-bomb up. Hey. Anyway, cheers for me. Dreary old Saturday morning. Gonna leave it at that. We'll catch you on the next one. Tiny homes. Do we want them to be pushed where they're being pushed, or should we have just left them where they were? Which was a beautiful thing that normal people could do with very little fuss. Question to think about, I believe. Bye, guys. Kerry's not going to say bye. She's outside. She's not talking. It's too early in the morning. She's still in her jammies. Anyway, cheers from me. See you in the next one. I'm out.